Well, a strategy to diversify client base and a backlog are two of the headlines that have come from Greka Drilling. Now, to discuss the company and its outlook, we're joined by its chairman and chief executive, Randeep Grewal. Now, Randeep, a backlog is confirmed and contracted drillable wells this year, but the word backlog has negative associations. Is that correct in this case?
Well, backlog is a very positive thing. When you're sitting on almost $100 million worth of equipment, you really want a backlog so you can plan your work scope correctly, deploy it efficiently. We can't go from contract to contract without having sufficient time to plan. So our engineers and geologists, drilling engineers, staff, inventory personnel are always working through the backlog so our execution can be seamless when we get to the client.
And how is the execution going so far after 3 months of this new year?
I mean, we're very pleased with where we are going into 2014. I mean, 2014 is a transformational year for Greka Drilling. Largest backlog, the important thing about the contracts and agreements that we have, it is highly diversified, both in geography and in client base. 2014 Q1, just like any other year, is our planning time. This is the time that we actually get busy because of the heavy snow that we're surrounded by. So this is the time that we do maintenance, we do our scheduling, we do our inventory purchasing, and drilling would start shortly. By Easter, we should have a big fleet out there already working and getting on with this big year.
You talk about the heavy snow. In which locations are you currently basing your operations?
So we're headquartered in a place called Zhengzhou in Henan province, central China. As we expand into India, we'll obviously diversify away from the weather also. But for the last, let's say, 7 years, we've been very much driven by what's the weather cycle during the course of the year. And in the first half, or first quarter, I should say, there's always heavy snow in Sangxi. And there's no point moving a bunch of guys around with hard hats and try to put them to work when we can do our maintenance in that time of the year and drill during Q3, Q2, and Q4.
So what is it about those two locations that were highly attractive to your business?
Between China and India, so we are a specialist, in our view, the best in class when it comes to drilling for coalbed methane. And we've been very busy for the last better part of 15 years developing proprietary technology for drilling coalbed methane in China. It so happens that India's geographic strata is identical to China. So the same proprietary technology that's been so successful in India, I beg your pardon, in China, should go across and work rather well in India.
So you talk about coalbed methane. Is this the unconventional drilling, unconventional gas that we hear about?
That's exactly correct. And let me just add a few important points to that. Coalbed methane, if you don't degas the coal and you attempt to mine the coal, you will kill the miners. So degassing coal is a natural action that one must take to even make coal mining a success. We specialize exclusively in drilling into coalbed methane in an environmentally prudent manner. Throughout our drilling, there is no fracking to the well required at all when we finish. We use absolutely no chemicals whatsoever. So we're drilling using predominantly air. We go to water. And the drilling mud that we might use in our process is biodegradable. So ultimately, the water that is desorbed out of the coal is clean. And this is an incremental water source for farmers and the community at large, followed by gas production in an environmentally prudent manner.
So you're taking out, but you're also putting in to the communities that you're surrounded by and you work amongst.
Precisely. This is why the farmers line up and they're eager to get that clean water supply, which in central China isn't that easy to come by.
Now, you've diversified your client base. Why did you decide to do that, and what's the upshot been from this restructuring?
Well, risk mitigation. I mean, there's no point having a company dedicated to just one client. Something happens to that client, you have your entire risk consolidated into one client. So the diversification strategy is simply outright growth. I mean, we've got tools, equipment, technology, aptitude, personnel, we can service multiple clients, and this is merely driven from growth. Risk mitigation, the more clients you have, the better your diversified risk is, and that's basically what it's being driven by. Diversifying beyond China into India is more along the same thing. The coalbed methane industry is developing rather quickly in India at this point, considering the exploration work has gone on for the last 12 years. And it's time for large-scale production to come on stream in India. And we are ultimately a production drilling enterprise. We are not an exploration drilling enterprise. So as the strata matures for production drilling, Greka Drilling is your single supplier.
So you've briefly touched on risks. What are the opportunities going ahead?
It's very difficult to come up with a peer to Greka Drilling globally. We are Asia's single largest independent rig owner and provider. The opportunities are to take the aptitude that we've acquired and built up over the last 20 years and put it to work. Massive about a coalbed methane development in China. We reckon there'll be somewhere between 5,000 to 6,000 wells drilled a year for the foreseeable future. And we think India follows very closely behind China in terms of the volume of wells that get drilled. Certainly there'll be thousands of wells drilled in India for the foreseeable future. So there's Greka Drilling's market that we want to be on the ground capturing a portion of that market as we continue to expand.
So a portion of that market, but if we flesh it out a bit, what's the investment model that will get investors all excited?
The investment model simply is that we make money every day we go to work. So we work on a profit basis to start off with. The investment excitement is the same excitement to me as I'm a large shareholder of the company. We have proprietary technology, proprietary tools and equipment that we've developed ourselves. We're a niche player, so we can't do everything for everyone. But in our narrow niche, we're best in class. And that's simply what Greka Drilling is all about.
And what milestones in the pipeline that investors should be putting in their diary?
Milestones would be continued expansion of client base in China, and then very importantly, opening up India and finally landing our rigs onshore in India and spudding our first wells and starting the drilling program in India.
And both jurisdictions are friendly to your type of business model?
They're eager for us because both countries require an abundance of domestic gas production, which they are very eager to have. And Greka Drilling is giving you the keys to unlock your domestic gas reserves in an environmentally clean manner. Both countries are eager to have us work for the respective companies working in the region.
Randeep, thank you very much for that very uplifting update.
Thank you for having us.
That was Randeep Grewal, who is Chief Executive and Chairman of Greka Drilling.